according to today's papers, female executives are up in arms over news that the government plan to make it mandatory for businesses to have a minimum of 1 in 4 female board members by 2015. Currently, almost half of all the top 250 FTSE companies have no women on the board at all. Liz Barber, an executive herself, says it's patronising and women shouldn't be made to feel that they're only there because they want to fill up the quota. Meanwhile, Marketing Vice President Amanda Jobbins said all roles should be appointed on merit, but the definition of merit needs changing. So what do you think, girls? Do you think a quota system will make it easier for women to make it into the boardroom?
I think it sets a really dangerous precedent, actually, because it is rather patronising, isn't it? If you think that a woman is going to get a job because she ticks a box, I think that would anger most women. And I think, really, my feeling is that most women get the jobs on their own merit, the women I know in business. I did know one girl, for instance, she was fighting for a job in a very big company and it was just full of men, and she fought for quite a long time. And eventually she did get the job, but sadly within that next year she was pregnant and left. And the boss went, I rest my case. You know, that's why I didn't give it in the first place, because I knew she was a wanted family and she was a family woman. And actually that kind of worked against her. But I don't think you should get a job because you tick a box. I think that's a very dangerous way to go.
Well, I agree with you in the sense that I think there are 3 types of women. There are... And that's the problem. It is a man's world because a man does the job, he's usually the breadwinner, that's how it's always been, and things are changing now. But for women, it's a very, very difficult situation because we do have the babies. Well, some of you do, I'm not saying that. But, you know, there are career women who don't have children. There are career women who do have children, but always have to put the children first. So they're not going to be on the golf course talking business like the men do. They're not going to be around the pub talking business because that's where most of the business is done, out of hours. And also there's the women who stay at home. So I think the percentages are actually right. And like Sherry said, I think it's the women who really do want to do it are already doing it.
Well, it's an interesting point you raised about the, women having children, because obviously that is where a lot of women have to step off the career ladder. Should they make the choice to be at home with their kids? And for me, certainly, that was a choice I've made. You know, every job I take on now is based around, does it work for my son? Of course. So, you know, I think you're right, men have a greater freedom of choice. What is interesting, though, we talked about the fact that the top 250 FTSE companies only half of them have women in the board. But actually, when you shrink it down to the top 100, 82% of those companies have women on the board. Top 100 have women on the board. Does that not speak for the strength of the case? And also, don't you think we as women, especially running homes, families, we are very good at multi-skilling? And I think, actually, now at work, I'm more focused because I know I'm here, I've got to go at this time, I've got to get this done. And I think you become far more streamlined with what you do. And I think as an employer, we're still an attractive option, and that should be recognised.
Yeah, I agree, but I don't think we should be singled out because we're women.
What about you being frozen out because you're a woman?
Well, no, I think I agree with most of what's been said, actually, is that, you know, the cream always rises to the top, and if you're really good at what you do, then you will get an opportunity. I think if it is a man's world, and I tend to agree, in the boardroom it probably is, you're not going to get any respect by being there just because that you're a token female. It's going to wind men up even more. I mean, they complain about us saying, well, you say you want to be equal, and and yet you've got this thing where you have a right to be there just because you're a woman. I would rather than them just guaranteeing someone a place in a boardroom, just pay us equally. Give us equal pay.
Well, I think in some cases that, I mean that should be the case. That's a policy most companies will enforce. But do you think that...
Still not right across the board, though, is it?
But do you think, as an employer, you would sit there with a man and a woman in front of you and think, OK, he's less likely to want to leave early for sports day, therefore, do you not think that those are genuine...
Well, less likely to have a baby, you see. I think that's what comes in,
there are men that do want to be with their kids as well. I think it's important to say that. I'd be interested to know the age of the women that are in those top 100, because I think we're different at different stages in our lives. I think in my 20s, I would have been really good in a sort of, completely committed, 7 in the morning till 9 o'clock at night. But now I want a family and my life changes.
The big corporate companies, I mean, those men are in at 6 o'clock in the morning, they finish at 9 o'clock at night, they go out for dinner and carry on. I don't think, as women, with children, we can't do that.
With children you can't, but without children, what's stopping you? Go for it.
No, of course.
Absolutely. OK, it's competition time. time now. And this week, we're giving every... start again. Can't speak. This week, and the best of luck. Now, our first guest says that back in the day, most people would ask him, do you have a cunning plan? These days, though, most people just come up to him and say, can you come and dig up my garden, please? In other words, he's just as famous for playing Baldric in Blackadder as he is for bringing archaeology into our living rooms. Please welcome Tony Robinson.
I love Time Team. I love it. Why is it so popular?
I don't know. It's just a bunch of old hippies digging up a garden,
But
isn't it?
what is it, though?
I
It's just one of the most exciting things to watch.
18 years we've been doing it.
18?
Yeah.
And you could carry on forever, couldn't you?
Yeah.
Because there's everywhere to dig yet.
And more people now are like the idea of us digging up their place than they did when we started 20 years ago. So, actually, there's more stuff for us to dig than there ever was.
So who gets to keep the stuff, then? Because if you're digging up my garden and you find something Roman...
Oh, yeah.
Is it mine or is it yours?
No,
Or is it at museums?
The deal always is that it'll go to a local museum. What we say is, what we want to uncover is history that people have never known about before in their local area. So that's what's important to us, the local area.
This is a massive passion for you, though, isn't it? You're doing the ideal job that you've always dreamt of doing.
I've got the best job in the world. Yeah, absolutely fantastic, yeah. I go to 13, 14 places every year that I've never been to before, just for 3 days, dig around like fury, rip up people's lawns, go away. I don't have to put the grass back.
No.
Do you ever get into trouble, though?
We did in the early days. We never knew quite how to reinstate people's lawns. There was one very posh lady in Richmond, and you know what Richmond people in Surrey can be like. And we dug her garden, and then we put the turfs back. 4 days later, the whole garden went zoom.
So do you always find something, or is it sometimes just...
No, there's one programme where we didn't find anything at all.
Oh.
But people said, great programme that, you didn't find anything, you cheeky monkeys. Like we planned it.
Could you not just plant something to make better telly?
No, we're not into that. No, I mean, the whole thing about our programme is, I mean, you know how much telly is stitched up, but as far as we're concerned, we want to be authentic. If we show you stuff and we find it and it's fantastic, you've got to know that there are some times where we hardly find anything.
Yeah, exactly.
What's the most exciting thing you've ever found?
We were digging this Roman villa, and the specialist said, I think there is a mosaic floor under here. And he passed me the trowel, and he said, go on, take it up. So I was the first person for 1,600 years to reveal this mosaic pavement as it came up. And first of all, it was just like little white mosaics. Is there going to be anything else? Yes, there's some black. Yes, there's some coloured. Is there going to be a picture? Is there going to be a face? It was so exciting. What a privilege.
But it's not just gardens that you've been digging up, because you've been digging around in your own family history and other people's, because you're hosting Who Do You Think You Are live.
Yeah, there's a huge stage show at Olympia over the weekend, 3 days of family history.
Which is a spin-off from the show, but I think people have become so captivated by the idea of digging around in their own past, haven't they?
Yeah, completely. A lot of that is to do with laptops. In the old days, if you wanted to find out about your family history, you'd have to trawl around churches and old offices, and then when you found the documents, they were usually eaten by worms, or the rain had fallen on them, or the guys who'd written it were just lazy. It was the 90th thing they'd done that day, so you couldn't read it. But now it all gets processed, and you can go to ones like the one that I'm doing a presentation for, ancestry.co.uk, and it's all clean, it's all there, you just get it at a touch of a button.
And you can do it from the comfort of your home.
Yeah. And no people in the history of the world have been able to find out as much about their families as we can now.
It's amazing.
But how do you do it live, though? Does somebody come up on stage and just go, right, tell me about my history?
Well, last year they actually did my Who Do You Think You Are live. So I was actually confronted by knowing all this stuff which I'd never learned before. Like my great-great-grandmother, she was so poor that she eventually died in the workhouse in Stepney. At the same time, her female cousin had just married a lord and was living in a castle. It's like a fairy story, isn't it? But because I never know whether they were ever in contact or whether...
Because we all think, don't we, that we all descend from royalty.
Yeah.
You know, we all think there's a pot of money just waiting for us, don't we? You know, and God forbid, if I sort of trace myself back and I were a scrubber, I'd just...
Let's find out a little bit about who we are, because you've very kindly researched our surnames for us to find out a little bit about our backgrounds. So who proved to be most interesting?
The interesting thing about Maxwell, I'd never thought about this before. Don't worry.
Oh, it's scary, isn't it?
No,
You don't know what you're going to hear.
It's just Maxwell. It's the
What,
well that was owned by a bloke called Mac.
I'm going to work that out myself.
What about Sherry?
Well, the interesting thing about Hewson or Robinson is you think, oh, it's the son of Hugh, it's the son of Robinson. Well, in my case, yes, it's the son of Robin. But in the old days, Robin was like Robin Hood. It was a bad guy. And often if people didn't know their surnames or if they didn't have a surname, if they went up in court, they would put Fred and then they would put Robin's son of Robin. In other words,
So
he's
that's
just a
how
crook.
surnames came about?
Yeah, a lot of them. So Hewson could easily be, just mean...
Whose son?
Well, yeah, and Welsh. So it just means...
So always...
Sherry
Yeah,
who's Welsh.
yeah.
And what
Always
about
the
Jane
son on the end.
McDonald?
Oh, yes, what about the MacDonald clan
We can
over
leave
here?
this right now. I think we can...
Oh, it's
Something to do with burgers.
This is McDonald, isn't it?
yeah, it is, but it also means strength and power and nobility.
Oh,
so
Yes, I knew it.
Yeah.
I knew it.
Let me very quickly say that Thornton is thorn, like a thorny bush. Ton is an enclosure. So you are Kate, who has a thorny enclosure.
There's a lot I could say to that, but it's not 9 o'clock at night. Thank you so much for coming in today. It's been an education. Good luck with the live event. And please keep digging. Tony Robinson, everyone. Me and my thorny enclosure are going to take a little breather, but on our return, should marriage vows include the commitment for fitter, for fatter? Find out what we think in a bit.